Cool. Can you hear me? Yeah. Cool. Okay. So, yeah, I'll do the obligatory About Me page. My name's Sean. I've been working for a company called Sapien Nitro up in Shoreditch for about 3 years now. I'm a front-end developer, so mostly spending my time doing front-end code. I occasionally get to play about with big boy technologies like Ruby. I'm going to talk about Grunt. Is anyone using Grunt or been using Grunt? Awesome. So the next 8 minutes are going to probably completely be a waste of time. Grunt's a JavaScript task runner built for the purpose of managing those boring, repetitive processes that you have to do. Mostly the ones that you have to do when you go from your development code to your beautiful, lovely production code. It's built by a guy called Ben Ullman. He works for a company called Boku, based in Boston. Works on the jQuery project and loads of other open source goodness. But it's more than a build tool. It basically allows you to get stuff done. So those of you using Grunt, you've already got like a really nice build process in place. The people who don't use Grunt, do you like writing build scripts and things like that? Everyone does. Everyone loves writing build scripts. These are like the tools when I first started doing web development, are the tools that I used to use. Just your general like online tools to uglify and smush images and run your code through JSLint to make sure that it abides by all Crockford's laws, or JSLint, actually not JSLint. And eventually I moved on to like little Python scripts and Ruby scripts and that I can just run from the command line because I'm quite comfortable there. Still, I work with a lot of people that still use these tools. The build systems, like Grunt's nothing new. It's not doing anything that hasn't been done before. All the eggs at the top and the two Apache volunteers, they get used everywhere. They're on loads of open source projects. I like these three. These are the ones that I've used mostly. Where I work, for some reason, that guy over there is the most popular one. I'm not too sure why. I always think it's because it's got the best logo. Also, the original HTML5 boilerplate came with an Apache AND script, and I think everyone sort of jumped on board with that. And I've never really liked AND. Mostly because this is it. This is the build script you have to write when you and it's XML and. You know, I'm a web developer. I don't want to play with XML. No. But yeah, I don't really want to write this all the time. And normally on teams that I work on, they're massive teams. They're across, you know, a couple of continents. And normally it's just one person on a project out of 20 developers who knows how to write AND. And so it's always down to one person to run the build. I started using some GUI tools, mostly CodeKit and Live Reload, just because I preferred them. Only problem is I'm on a Mac and my teammates in India are on a Windows PC, and they're not going to use either of these. There is actually a alpha for Live Reload on Windows, but I tried it and it's not great. There's also other reasons. These tools cost money. In an organization like the one I work in, there's a lot of developers, and forking out $20 or whatever Live Reload costs now per machine, per user, just sort of isn't viable. Also, there's no config file that you can share to tell them how to set up the project or how to have CodeKit, you know, compile this bit of JavaScript into this JavaScript file, or how to compile Sass and things like that. Yeah, and Windows support is poor for these tools. So then in 2012, I didn't discover Grunt. I read about Grunt somewhere, and it was great. It was everything that I needed in a build tool and more. Mostly because this is how you do JSLint with Grunt. I can read this. I understand what each of it means, and whilst it looks like JSON, it's actually just JavaScript. In the ANT example before, there were a couple of lines that that are extra, and I'm not trying to cheat Ant by saying that you write less code when you use Grunt. I'm trying to say that you write code that if you write JavaScript a lot, you understand a bit more. There are actually a couple of lines here that are just Grunt boilerplate, which are those ones on the outside. So for every task you want to do with Grunt, this is roughly about the amount of code that you have to write and how it looks. So Grunt's built on Node.js. So it has that as a dependency, and Node runs pretty much cross-platform. It's really simple and install to run. You guys know everyone uses Node, right? Yeah. And NPM's awesome. So who uses Grunt? jQuery use it. Ben Ullman, like I said, has done a lot of work on jQuery core, so they were kind of the first ones to start using it. HTML5 boilerplate. Anyone use that a lot? It comes with a Grunt script when you sort of like download it. It's pretty cool. Twitter apparently use it for TweetDeck. Has anyone been using Yeoman tool? Yeah. So Yeoman is like the meshing of three tools, one of them being Grunt. And Adobe use it for Brackets, which is their browser-based IDE. So these are like quite big open source giants, you might say. They're well recognized, and they're already using Grunt, even though it's at 0.4.1, so it's still in beta technically. And the good thing about that is when you have projects like that using a tool, it gets better quickly. You get bugs filed quicker, bugs fixed quicker, you get features added really quick. So to install Grunt, just do an npm install. And what we do here is we install the Grunt CLI now. So before 0.4, you actually just installed the task runner globally. Now what you install globally is Grunt CLI. It's not the actual task runner. It's just the interface for the task runner. And then we just need two files. We need a Grunt file and a package file. Package file looks the same as if you've been working at all with Node. Looks like a normal package file. This is like the bare minimum one. So install Grunt, and now I'm installing the actual task runner and I'm installing it locally. So this was a big change in the last version, that Grunt got installed locally to the project. That means when you pass around your project or you're working with other people, they have the version installed that they need to run Grunt locally to the project and not globally on their machine. So there was like problems with that. That gets saved to the dev dependencies. So we go ahead and we install the plugin we want to use. In this case, it's JS Hint. That gets saved to our dev dependencies. And now, when you're working with someone else and they just get the Grunt file, npm install, and they've got what they need to run whatever you define in your Grunt file. So the first thing, we got a common JS module, and then the Grunt init, and we pass in the options we want. Then we load in the npm module via the Grunt API, and then we just register what we want, in this case JS Hint, to the default task. And so now when you run Grunt, it runs whatever the default task is, and in this case all our files get hinted and they're completely bug-free. So again, just adding a task is like this nice process, as I call it. It's just npm install a plugin, add it to our configuration file, and now we can cat all our files. And there are a couple of options for uglify. The reason that I list out each of the files rather than just go through all the files like the JS Hint task is just because I need to concatenate them in a specific order. And then we just go ahead, load in the npm task, and assign it to our default task as well. Now, when you run Grunt, that default task runs however many tasks you want in that default task. It will just run through each of them. So everything at the moment is attached to our default. So that's when we jump into command line, we run Grunt, everything's attached there. But you you don't want to do that for everything. There are some things that Grunt can do, such as optimize images, that you're not going to want to do every time you're running Grunt. So what you can do is just register a new task. You can load in the image min, and we can register a task just called image min, and then in our command line we can run Grunt image min. So, like I said, it's more than just a normal build tool. There are a lot of things that Grunt can do, and there are a lot of things on the roadmap for Grunt that will be quite cool. So, passing in the package.json, you can pass that into the Grunt file and then start using it in places. The place that I use it mostly is to update the version. So I take the version that I've defined in the package.json and I just use it here, templated into the minified JSON, so I sort of got some dirty cache busting going on. If I also want to use the package name, just in case for some weird reason I have to change the name, I only have to update it in one place, and I don't have to go back and rename files and things like that. If you do some open source projects, using it in banners, like the little comment banners at the top of your minified files, is really useful again. You can also, Grunt has some API stuff. You can just template in dates and things like that. So again, when you go into like integration, if you're not the person integrating into the back end, then you can easily look at the minified file, look at the comment, and see if they are actually using the right file. Anyone accidentally left a console.log or an alert in production code? Yeah. So there's a really cool plugin that's just become sort of part of my basic Grunt boilerplate. Let's just remove login, just go through each file, remove all the console.logs, and anything that looks like an alert that shouldn't be there. It's pretty handy. Anyone like Sass? Yeah, Sass is awesome. So you can compile Sass using Compass. There is like a normal Sass plugin if you don't want to compile it with Compass. But this is pretty good because it's really helped with getting people where I work on board with Sass, because they're like, oh, well, I need a Mac because I need to be able to run this or this or this. And getting them up and running, like installing Node, installing Ruby on their Windows machine, and then just pointing to this config RB, which is local to the Grunt file, so it's same level on the project as the Grunt file, and they're up and running, compiling Sass, and no one can complain. So I like, you don't have to use the Ruby compiler. There are some Node ones that you can use. I just like to use that Ruby config. It kind of gives me peace of mind. Who tests their JavaScript? Everyone. Of course we do. Who actually tests their JavaScript? So testing in Grunt is like my favorite thing. It's the thing it's just made it really, really easy. And what it does is it actually runs QUnit through Phantom. So whilst you've still got to open it up in the other browsers that aren't WebKit, this is like a good first line defense to run it through it. You can run it through a local host, or you can actually just point it to a test folder, and it will still run those. It will go through each file and run through everything in there. There's also, if you like any of the other testing frameworks, you can use Jasmine, Mocha, or Node Unit. I haven't used either of those just because I'm a fan of QUnit at the moment. So Grunt Watch is a long-running Grunt task. When you normally run Grunt, it will run whatever you define and then finish. With Watch, it will just continuously watch. So we can say, watch all our JavaScript files or watch all our Sass files, and when you're done, run a certain amount of tasks. This is good for if you're doing testing, or if you just don't want to continuously compile, especially with something like Sass. You want it to just run, and it does that really, really, really well, pretty quickly. So the plugin ecosystem for Grunt is massive. Like I said, it's still in beta, and there's like 400 or more plugins to do various amount of tasks. FTPing up to a server, uploading images to a CDN or AWS, running some JS doc stuff, compiling Ember templates, AMD modules, things like that. So it's one of the really big wins for me is that it has this massive community around it. Grunt init used to be with Grunt. It's now sort of a separate thing. So you can, what it is a scaffolding tool. If any of you use something like Yeoman or something like that, it's really handy. So what you do is you install Grunt init, you clone a template, or you can create your own templates. And then when you want to do Grunt init, you can do jQuery, and I'll try and show an example. So let's just say, for example, I'm building a jQuery carousel plugin, because I think that's what the world needs right now. So I'll just do grunt init jQuery, and then it will ask you a bunch of questions, you know, that you might want to put in your package JSON, or even the JSON file that you push up to the jQuery plugin site now. I'll just go through these. There you go. You can see here that this is what it's scaffolded out for me. I've even got QUnit already running. I've got test files already set up. It's already given me a pre-made grunt file with a bunch of tasks already there. Even the plugin has already sort of like been started. I've got the iffy at the top and a bunch of functions. Custom selector, don't ever do that, but it's already all there. It's already been scaffolded in a matter of seconds. So I can already run the test. So I do grunt watch. I need to install the modules. So it's already got the package there with a bunch of modules that it's already going to use. Okay, yeah, I'm not going to do that. It's going to take too long. So yeah, it'll go through all your files and stuff, and it scaffolds out a really nice project. Gives you a nice starting point. There are other templates such as a really plain grunt file. If you just do grunt init grunt, it will give you a grunt file, so you don't actually have to go and write it all out. I think there's a backbone one and things like that. Win. So why should you use Grunt? And this is kind of the list I had to write to justify to my co-workers why they should use Grunt. So configuration or scripting. As you see, the Grunt file is just kind of like a big config script. But because it's JavaScript, you can also just write in any task you want. There's consistency in the API. Like I said, it did change, but it changed because of user feedback, things like that. But there are consistencies within the API. So when a new plugin is built, it's very familiar. So it's really easy to start using. Community is pretty big. A lot of people are using it. A lot of big projects are using it. And yeah, that I think that alone makes it kind of a win. And it's built on Node, so it's really powerful. Like I said, you can write anything you want in the actual Grunt file, and you have Node, so it makes it pretty powerful. So if you're not using Grunt, most of you are, but If you're not, I'd recommend installing it. Use it if you can use it on your current project. If you can replace a process that you're already doing either manually or you're using something like Make or Rake, try and replace it now. If not, try and use it on the next project. Start to love automation. It's become a core sort of process of my workflow at the moment. Is if I can automate it, I will, just because it will just make my life easier. If I'm not on the project, someone else has the grunt file, they can do the exact same thing. It makes getting emails when you're on vacation a lot less likely. Have a look at some of the grunt files. Like I said, the jQuery project has a really, really good grunt file. I've learned a lot from just reading their grunt file. They do a lot of like custom work. So as of jQuery 2.0, you can build your own version of jQuery. I don't know if you want to, but yeah, and they just use Grunt to do that, and you can do that. So have a look at theirs, and if you can, contribute back. Find something that needs to be done with Grunt. File a bug, fix a bug if you can. Yeah, and just giving back to the community is a big thing. It will keep Grunt going, and we'll get to 1.0 soon. So with that, thank you very much. And if you got any questions about Grunt, I'll speak to you in the break. Or now, if there's time. Yeah, if there's any time. Any questions?
Actually. So, in your experience, how well do sort of maintainers of Grunt plugins keep up to date with the updates of the things that they're abstracting? Like, are you having any problems with, like, I don't know, plugin maintainers not keeping up to date?
Yeah, so I was using a plugin called Bake, and it basically allows you to include HTML in sort of like comments. So you can include modules of HTML in comments. And there was a problem where you could pass through variables through, but you couldn't pass variables through with special characters. And so I just filed a bug expecting it not to be fixed and started looking to fixing it myself. And within like 12 hours, it was like fixed and pushed back up. I've had a couple of instances like that. The best ones that get fixed quickest are the ones that are maintained by the Grunt team. So there's these Grunt contrib plugins. They're for like the normal tasks like the JS min and things like that. And they're kept up to date pretty well. There was an issue with like NPM recently messing around with the Grunt file, and it got fixed within 17 hours of the issue being filed. So I think it will be more, if Grunt continues to be used and continues to grow and be popular, the better it will be maintained. So it is likely that, you know, it could just die off and something else will take over it. But I really believe that as a web developer, I want to build scripts and automation tools in a language that I use every day. So I try and contribute as much as I can to Grunt, and I think that's what it'll be down to. Really. Anything else? Cool.